to amend the constitution through a parliamentary initiative in the current parliament, as suggested by the Constitutional Implementation and Oversight Committee. This even as the BBI secretariat prepares to boost Attorney General Paul Kihara Kariuki's appeal at the Supreme Court to challenge the Court of Appeal judgment on the BBI process. But as Musa Salana reports, a BBI secretariat co-chairperson Junet Mohammed believes that the Supreme BBI battle would take at least 60 days to conclude, making it the least a better option to explore before reading the same script with the Jeremiah Kioni-led committee in Parliament.
The push for constitutional amendment through the infamous 2018 handshake that birthed the Building Bridges initiative has become a thorn in the flesh for the proponents of the BBI process. The courts once again proving their independence to throw the BBI bill out of the window. But the August 20th Court of Appeal judgment that upheld the High Court ruling that nullified the handshake-driven constitutional amendment process has stirred confusion across the political divide. While the intent of the BBI bill to create an all-inclusive government post-2022 was crystal clear to the 7-judge bench, queries on the bill's legitimacy has created loopholes in the judgment that the proponents of the initiative are not willing to let go.
Because it also depends with the leadership, the enforcement. In constitutional law, we talk of the letter and the spirit of the constitution. Where the letter is not very clear, you look at the spirit, and people normally go back and say, what was in the mind of the framers of the constitution? What were they thinking when they were actually composing this particular article or this particular chapter? So you give it a favorable interpretation that actually benefits society. And that's why we always say in law, when you're looking into making a new law or a new constitution, look at what is the common good, not that which is personal to me.
The intention was noble to have certain adjustments made to the constitution. But when you look at the ruling, a lot of it has been anchored on the process and the legitimacy of the process. And the courts have pronounced themselves. So I think since we are a country that believes in the rule of law, we should respect what the courts have determined. And the country now needs to move on.
A section of members of parliament are in the advanced stages of introducing a parliamentary initiative to amend the constitution to salvage the inactive BBI bill. But Constitutional Implementation Oversight Committee chairperson and Daragwa member of parliament Jeremiah Kioni says the concept had been in motion long before the BBI bill.
Ukiangalia uamuzi ambao ulitolewa ilizingatia zaidi mambo ya process wala sio content ya mambo ambayo yalikuwa ndani ya BBI, lakini ile process ambayo ilifanyika, jinsi ilivyoanzishwa, jinsi Wakenya wale ambao waweke sahihi, mambo ya public participation na watu kujumuika. Kwa hivyo nafikiri ni sawa. Nafikiri kama viongozi ni muhimu kwa sasa tuangalie kulikuwa na nini hapo ndani ambapo labda Wakenya wangefaidika. Kurasa huu umesha pita, lakini lazima tuzungumze kama viongozi.
And if indeed there are areas that can be handled by Parliament, and I think Parliament has been taking up some of these debates, is where they believe there are issues that may not require referendum, perhaps they can consult in Parliament and be able to make some adjustments.
This is an issue we conceived even before the issues of BBI were ever put on the table. Anywhere, be it in Bomas or in any of the sittings that they have.
What parliamentarians are trying to do is to circumvent both the decisions in the High Court and in the Court of Appeal. One of the fundamental decisions was that for you to change the constitution the way they are proposing, you must ensure the basic structure is met. That was confirmed in the Court of High Court and also in the Court of Appeal. So what the legislatures are trying to do is actually to ignore that final order of the court by going back to Parliament.
According to the draft bill, the Kioni-led committee has proposed 3 key proposals, including the nomination of the first runner-up in a presidential election to Parliament, as well as the amendment of Article 152 of the Constitution on the Cabinet to delete Clause 3 on cabinet composition to allow the President to appoint cabinet members from among elected members of Parliament, with the same applying to county assemblies. The committee also proposes the inclusion of the Attorney General in the affairs of Parliament as an ex-officio member with assigned functions, proposing a new clause under the role of the President that the President may assign the Attorney General the duties of a cabinet member. This, Kioni says, will improve service delivery, but constitutional lawyer Ikuru Okot opines would be unconstitutional.
One of the areas we are identifying as affecting the delivery of services negatively to the populace was the structure of government. Because in our 2010 constitution, we provided that members of the cabinet will be appointed from people who have not been elected, and people who are not serving as members of parliament. And we thought that the previous way of managing our affairs, under the previous constitution, was better than what we have.
Save for the bill, there's a bill which CIOC had presented, which I think is in the second reading. I have not received any other proposal. So the rest I consider it as notices of intention. Yeah. What they have been saying out there in the villages, those are things that sometimes some of them are just to excite themselves.
They want to bring members of Parliament into cabinet. That, by the way, goes against the spirit and letter of Article 255, which says that when you want to affect the structure of government, you must then go to a referendum. So this is not something they can change in Parliament, even expanding the executive. It needs the people of Kenya to determine. According to Article 256(1)(c) of the Constitution, a bill shall not be called for second reading in both houses of Parliament within 90 days after the first reading, and shall have been passed by Parliament when both the Senate and the National Assembly have passed the bill. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi says it would be nearly impossible to pass the Kioni-sponsored bill in the current Parliament owing to the strict timelines for the bill to be passed before the end of the year.
It will be published, which they haven't. After publication and first reading, it will be out there in the public for 90 days before anything can be done on it. Therefore, you can begin calculating today, if nothing has been published as of now. It means that start counting September, October, November, December, the Parliament goes to the long recess. Although this time, this one will be slightly shortened because of the general elections and the budget. So it doesn't look very, very neat to amend the Constitution at this late stage and during the life of the current Parliament.
With the BBI stuck at Parliament, the BBI secretariat awaits to explore the corridors of justice in support of an appeal by Attorney General Kiara Kariuki at the Supreme Court before seeking other alternatives, saying the parliamentary initiative is independent of the BBI process, an affair that Secretariat co-chairperson Junet Mohammed believes could take at least 60 days to conclude.
You see, that's another initiative of its own by the committee or so Parliament will decide on it on their own. That will cross that bridge when we reach there. But we have never been part of it. As we have been part and parcel of the BBI process, and now that we have lost the case at the appeal court, we want to try our luck at the Supreme Court. Until that is done, we may not involve ourselves in other form of engagements or constitutional change. We want to see how far we can go, because that's the last court. We want the Supreme Court to pronounce itself on very fundamental issues that have been raised in the appeal court.
Musa Salah, TV 47.